every time we open up the legislature, they open with prayer. And then they pledge allegiance to the flag. And as soon as they remove their hand, the knives come out, the guns come out. And if you read the Bible, and if you really, really read the Bible and look at it, sex offenses have been going on since the beginning of time. Against kids, against women, against men. You know, if we really just was honest, David was a sex offender and a murderer. You know, I was talking to my landlord today, and he was saying, man, I'm just so proud of you. But he used to have to put up fights with the neighbors in the apartment complex because the neighbors would send him dirty letters about, you got these sex offenders in there, you got them in there. Well, his thing was, hey, I'm a pastor. And God said for me to help people, and that's what I'm going to do. You know, I remember when I first got to the church and they told me they loved me, and I was like, here comes that love word again. You know, everybody tell you that until, and then, you know, you find out later that, you know what, we really love you.
You have, I counted my caseload the other day, and it was like 145 individuals that I serve in groups. So, and I would say 95% of those individuals are religious or spiritual in some way. That's probably underestimating. So church is important to every one of them. As a counselor, you know, what I am imparting is important, but counselors in particular believe in the wellness model and the holistic model to serving people. So it's not just mental health, but it's spirituality, it's their everyday health, what they eat, how well they sleep. All of that stuff is important. And so support of a church community or a faith that welcomes you back, that gives you hope, is as important to their success on treatment as them understanding what cognitive distortions are, like denial and all the things I heard you mention. You know, it's as important as our curriculum. So finding church community and finding churches that will welcome people, housing opportunities that will welcome them, are part of that holistic approach that's so necessary for healing and for rehabilitation. So I would encourage churches to be more loving, to apply the principles of Christ, meeting everyone individually, which is what I do. I don't see somebody's crime and make assumptions about that. I learned that the hard way as a victim advocate, serving on a probation unit and reading files and going, oh, I hate this guy and he's going to be gross and he's disgusting, and then meeting him and going, oh, he's really kind of nice. And under different circumstances, I would be friends with his wife, and, you know, kind of seeing the human element. And I think churches offer that opportunity to welcome human, to make the interaction one-on-one. You know, deacons and church leaders, pastors, preachers, priests. I don't know if the Catholic Church is represented, but you know, they have an opportunity to meet with people and interview them about their past and ask them where they are, to welcome them into the community, to transition, make that transition for them into the community better. Yes, of course, we need to respect whatever boundaries they have in terms of their probation or parole. They can't, you know, be in the nursery, or they maybe have to attend a service that's only for adults in the evening or something like that. I think churches could make some accessibility options available where it's going to be a service that's just for adults, you know, for all the individuals who are not allowed to be around minors, or a male, you know, an adult choir or something that men can participate in. And I say men because the vast majority of the individuals who are convicted of sexual-based crimes are male. So offering fellowship for men, regardless of criminal background, and kind of allowing that opportunity. I have a guy that I work with in group who's very involved in his church, but he hasn't yet felt comfortable telling anybody about his charge. So he feels shameful. He feels I could get kicked out at any moment. You know, they know I'm retired, so they ask me to do more and more, and he's educated, so they want him to be involved in all sorts of opportunities at the church, but he's afraid the more visible I make myself, the more this could hurt when I'm kicked out. And I don't know that his church would kick him out, but this is a fear that he has. Because he didn't, with the guys I counsel, kind of disclosure, when and how, is such a big question. Like, how soon do you tell someone? Because you can't wait too long, but you can't tell them the first time you meet them, right? So, this is a conversation we have all the time when it comes to dating or getting a job or going to a church. So, maybe the church is thinking about that. If somebody's been part of our community and they haven't felt comfortable telling us, and then we find out or they tell us, how do we welcome them? How do we make them feel less scared about that process? Because disclosure is one of the scariest things people do. Yeah. Handing over the license is one thing, because I'm not going to, maybe I don't have to see this teller all the time, or I'm going to start buying cigarettes at different stores so that I don't see the same people all the time. But disclosure to people that are in your life, that you want in your life, is a huge barrier for people, and they will stop going to church if they think I'm going to have to disclose and they're going to kick me out, or I'm not going to belong. I'm going to just church hop and not find community because I'm too afraid of having to disclose this horrible secret about myself. Or they're going to Google my name and find out if I get too involved. So I think exactly what y'all are doing, applying Christian values to Christian organizations, looking at humans as human, and taking everybody's case as individual as you can, but also having a blanket approach in terms of opportunity, forgiveness, and welcome attitude. Because it's so important, and these men, many of them, just like the two of you, I think, they learn a lot from our groups, and they go, this is really helpful, but it was my relationship with God that made the big difference. It was somebody preaching to me at Angola. It was this. It was, everyone has an aha moment, and for many people, that comes in the form of religion.
Can I tell my aha moment?
Yeah.
I don't know nobody else. I don't know about anybody else. But when I was complaining about everything that was happening to me, and it's clear as day, God said, what part did you play?
See, in group, that's me.
And
How was you responsible?
And then, you can lie to yourself. Right. I can lie to all of y'all. But when God asks you, and you actually having a relationship with God, and he said, what part did you play? Okay. And then he says, okay, now I can come in and I can help you.
Right.
I can empower you. I can strengthen you. When everybody else has got weight on you, you can talk to me. And then you said, okay, yeah, I did something I had no business doing. And God said, okay, now let's go to the woodshed. Let's get it over with. Now let's move on. And then, because, at first I fought it with the law, everything else, and then when he said, hey, what part did you play?
Because, STAR offers, free services to victims, but we can't serve offenders, even if the offender actually had once been sexually abused themselves, which is a real barrier for people who also maybe still need to heal from their underlying trauma, but, especially, I guess, I know I always call Shannon whenever, because my whole thing is a lot of, victims, we just want, they really want intervention for people who committed crimes against them, but if there's a way for, if ever the churches all have, resources to where it's, they could sponsor a group, and, pay Shannon or somebody to come and do, a group at, a church that people have felt comfortable with, because I think sometimes also a barrier is that first step. Setting up an appointment for counseling seems kind of scary, but if it's run maybe, I don't know, you could obviously speak to more of that. I'm just throwing that out there as, also depending on resources, obviously there's all these fees that have to be paid, and when do you have extra money for, even if it's not required, but maybe somebody just wants that maintenance sort of you know, you said nobody really gets it unless you walked in their shoes, but like having something set up to where like, and not just anybody, but like somebody who's actually a professional, who knows the best practices, who's done this, you know, for a while. That's a recommendation I feel like, you know, I would give.
You know, it makes a lot of us have to go through hard times. If it wasn't for the fact that I have a relationship with God, I have people in my church that have been there for me, supports me, girds me, I don't know how I would have actually made it this far. And it's been 14 years. I know several sex offenders that are in churches, various churches, and active, and the pastors know. With the church that I go to, when this happened with me, I was going to Bethany World Press, and I was there for like 15 years. And after that, I started going to Jubilee Christian, and I immediately told the pastor about it. I mean, you know, he said, okay. He says, I'm glad you told me about this. He says, but hey, this is the house of God. I'm a man of God. I know what God says about forgiving people, loving people, because I had my own sins before, and I needed God's forgiveness. And still now, as a man of God, there are times that I may do things that displeases God, and I've got to ask God for forgiveness. So in order for me to receive God's forgiveness, I have to be able to forgive other people. And so, you know, a lot of churches and pastors, you know, I believe that they are ready to receive hurting people, accept them in love, in the love of God, and to be there for them in any way that they can be there to help empower them spiritually.